Alright, a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my channel again. And today we're going to be doing something that's a little bit different from what we've done before. So, as you can probably see today, we've got a pretty small little aircraft today. We've got the JustFlight Aero 3 here. And we're going to take this on a short little flight, another leg of the Canadian Express Orbex tour from Carp near Ottawa to Kingston, Ontario. So it's a relatively short flight, but it gives me a chance to try out this airplane, which I have not yet touched. This is basically going to be a first impressions video of this airplane. It certainly looks really good from the outside. The visual model looks fantastic, so I'm excited to take this for a ride, and hopefully this turns out well. If it does not, I apologize in advance. I literally have done nothing more than really load this airplane up and look at it once or twice, but I really have not actually taken it up for a flight. So this is my first chance to take it for a flight. So yeah, stick with me, and hopefully we'll be able to get this going without too much effort, and hopefully learn a little something. I like the idea of a GA airplane. Sometimes it's nice to go low and slow, and especially for some of these legs with the smaller airports in the Orbex tour now, we're visiting a lot of smaller airports in Canada. It's nice to have an airplane that can cover the distance, which the Aero doesn't have a half bad cruise speed of about 160 to 180 knots, but at the same time, no trouble getting in and out of these smaller airports. So, yeah, without further ado, we'll get this show on the road as best I know how. The first thing I'll do just quickly is just show you here on SkyVector really quick here. Alright, and here is our quick SkyVector view of what we're doing today. So as I said, it's just a Carp right near Ottawa here, just a quick little jaunt to the south and west a little bit to Kingston, Ontario. 70 miles on a heading of 214, and not too bad. I've only got half tanks in this airplane right now to get us there, but it's going to be a pretty short, hopefully about a half hour, 40-minute flight once we get up in the air. And while we're in the air, I'll hopefully get a chance to just play with this a little bit and show you some of the things that this airplane can do. And as I said, I'm going to be learning basically as we go here. So first thing we're going to do is we'll go ahead. We'll just have a quick little look here at just some of the external views, because it's a really nice model. It's it's not a very complicated airplane. It's not it's certainly not an airliner, but they've taken a lot of time to put a lot of detail into it. When we do get going, you'll be able to see pilots in there as well, but you can see the ridge lines on the horizontal and vertical stabilizer. The doors open and close. If we move the ailerons and everything, you can see everything moving nicely. We can do a little walk around in that way. And there are some nice things like to actually teach you to take care of your aircraft. Obviously, there's tie downs. The tie downs come away automatically when we start the engine and release the parking brake. But even if you look at down here at the detail at some of these things, like in the gear now, there's a little bit of clipping happening here just because of this camera angle, but you can see like even individual springs, the individual brake lines, like it's a very detailed model. And that goes with the inside as well. It is just finely detailed here. We've got vents and we've got the lighting system here. The whole thing has got a little bit of a beaten look, which is kind of nice. It's not a brand new factory fresh airplane. This is an airplane that's seen some mileage, so you can see wear and tear on the floorboards. Lots of chipped paint. I love this. The chipped paint on the left side of the control column. So the side of the control column that you'd be holding 90% of the time is the side that is chipped. So it just a sense of an airplane that's seen its fair share of hours in the sky. It's not a brand new airplane, but everything pretty much works in this airplane. You can open up the storm scope. The door latches properly, so when we climb in here, we can close the door, and then that closes, and we've got to make sure that this is closed and latched as well. In order to open it again, you've got to make sure you open both latches or it won't open. So it's a relatively simple airplane. It's a GA airplane. It's not exactly high technology, but for cruising around, bombing around VFR, and it looks like a beautiful VFR day out there, it's definitely a great kind of airplane for that. I'm basically going to go through this. There is a great manual that accompanies it. I'm going to try not to read directly too much from it, but I will try to just quickly go through some of the stuff and make sure that I'm not missing anything too obvious as we go through it. But it really does have like a first flight. It's got a great walkthrough, so if you're unfamiliar with the aircraft, you can get right into it. There's a little menu bar in the top left corner. You probably can't see it too well just because my overlay here is covering up part of it, but it does reveal a few things, so you can switch the aircraft to cold and dark. There's live checklists and a flight computer, and even the ability to move the aircraft around, basically like with a tow bar, so you can push it around the airfield if you need to position it for departure. And there is a whole set of checklists, so what we'll do is we'll just basically go through the checklist, and that's how I'm going to do this flight today. Before we do anything else, we're going to do our pre-flight. All right, so landing gear lever is down. I believe if we click each one, yes, there it is. I watched a couple videos of this ahead of time just to see some of the stuff. Parking brake set, and I believe that, yes, it is a pull towards you. That is parking brake set. Avionics, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be hunting a little bit for a few things here and there, just to make sure. Avionics master. Is there an avionics master, or do we just make sure everything is off? Off. I guess we just make sure everything is off the old-fashioned way. No avionics master on this aircraft. So avionics are all off. Mixture is at idle cutoff. Mag switch is hidden underneath the yoke. What I might do really quickly here is just set up a button for, I know I had, that's the throttle quadrant, but that doesn't let you see the mags. There's one that lets you see the mags, and a couple other switches as well. So I'm going to set up a button really quickly for this on my joystick, so now I can switch back and forth, although I wish it would do a nice little smooth transition. I'm not sure why it's not. Give me 1 second. So as I said, literally pretty much the first time I'm using this aircraft. So a few things here are just trying to get them how I like them. And I'm just going to move this a little further up in this list of views. When I scroll through them, I want those switches to be pretty far up there. Okay. Anywho. Alright, so the magneto switch is off after all that struggle. We did determine the magneto switch is off. Battery master is on. And we should hear some life coming to our airplane here. How I didn't kill the battery. It looks like I got my clock back, so hopefully it's good there. Fuel gauges, check quantity, and on this aircraft, there we are. Fuel gauges. Let's see if I've got a good... There we go, fuel gauges. There we are. Perfect. Fuel gauges check. We got about half tanks on both sides. Annunciator panel. And I'm not sure why I can't press that or why it's not doing anything. But it sounds like this thing has gone dead, possibly while I was sitting here. No, the lights are on, so should be able to check that annunciator panel. I'm not sure why. Battery master switch back off. No, the batteries are working. Primary flight controls, we did it to check while we were out there. Flaps, we could check. So this is a bit of a fun airplane. They are actually manual flaps here. And so if I switch to the external view here, hopefully we should see that the flaps went down while I was playing with them. Yep. Try to find a nice view. There you go. There's the flaps. The flaps checked. But it's the old handbrake lever pretty much for these flaps. Trim neutral. I honestly can't remember where the aileron trim, or where the the elevator trim is in this aircraft. Oh, it's right up there in the middle. That looks pretty much neutral. Perfect. Baggage door is closed. Flaps and ailerons were checked. Wingtips and lights we checked. Tie downs will be removed when we start the engine. And fuel tanks, again, we checked the level manually. Chocks removed. Tow bar removed. And engine inspection door. So if you check the oil level, which there's a neat little shortcut here. If we press this switch here, we can check the oil quantity and see what it says. And it says 8 quarts, which is plenty, and you can even see the inspection window open that. And all right. Once we're done that, it closes again. Neat little effect. Oil levels checked. Propeller, assuming we checked the condition. Landing lights we looked at. Fin, checked everything. External check is all complete. So before start check, we get back in. Brakes are set, circuit breakers, and apparently the circuit breakers are all modeled on this aircraft. I'm not going to play with them right now, but I will check. I will have to play with them at a later date. Alternate air. Ooh, boy, I'm struggling to remember some of this stuff. Alternate air is right there next to the throttle quadrant. Yes, there it is, closed. And propeller is full forward. Avionics are all, again, off, 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 off. And fuel selector on the desired tanks, so we're going to go ahead with the left tank for start here. Alright, so we're just going to crack the throttle open a little bit. Alternator switch is also going on. Battery master switch is on again. Fuel pump. It's right next to the battery master. And we just advance the mixture until we see a little fuel flow there. And check to make sure the propeller is clear. Now there is a way to make the yoke disappear. There we go, nice. Alright, and starter engage. Nope, missed it. Prime it up one more time. There we go. Get a little fuel flow. And as soon as it starts, got to advance the mixture. And there it goes. And it looks like we got it successfully started. Alright, fuel pump mixture prop is clear. And I'm going to bring that back a little more idle because it seems to be drifting even to park and brake on. Alright, mixture is at full rich, engine start confirmed. Magnetos back to both when we let them go. Throttle is adjusted, oil pressure is right over here. It's a little bit low, but as soon as I bring it up, it does go into the green, so it's just low just because of the low idle while we're trying not to keep it moving. Throttle 1400 to 1500 RPM, but it seems to want to drag a little bit. Or maybe it's just pitching down, I don't know. It's dragging very slowly across the ground. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and start taxiing for departure. And I honestly don't even know where we are parked at the airport here. We're at Carp today. Let's see here. Alright, there we go. Parking brake release. Throttle apply. We'll do a brake check and a steering check. How do I close this again? Do I just do that? There we go, close that. I'm just gonna... And the brakes definitely stopped the airplane there. And away we go. Alright, so we're underway a little bit here. Let's go see if we can find a place to do a run-up. Now then, here's the fuel tanks. Try not to hit anybody else's airplane as we taxi around. Find a nice clear spot and we'll see if we can do a little run up here. Make sure that everything's running properly before we take off. And while we're at it, we should probably, let's see if checklist has got in there for a ground check. Alright, so we'll get a little bit further away from the buildings here. Alright. Fortunately, we're on a virtual flying network here. I can see pretty much that there's nobody around. I'm going to set the parking brake really quick. But we can have a look. The nice thing, again, we're back into small airplanes. We can actually look behind us, which is something you don't get an opportunity to do in the airliners anyways. But so we can check. Parking brake is set. Propeller is full forward. And throttle to 2,000 RPM. Hopefully we don't drift too much here. She drifts a little wee bit, but not too much. So 2,000 RPM mag checks. So left mag, we get about 100 RPM drop there. Oop, too far. Right mag. Alright, let's go back to both. That's left mag. That's right mag. That checks. Max 175 drop. Vacuum. Should be 4.8 to... Where's the vacuum meter? There it is, right up here in the corner. 4.8 to 5.1. Yeah, it's pretty much just 4.8. Oil temperature check. She's getting warmed up pretty nicely now. Oil pressure is checked. And ammeter check. Ammeter, it's right here. Nope. Yes, there it is. It is putting out a little bit of amps. Discharging. We are drifting slowly. Annunciator panel. I can't seem to get the switch to push to test. I don't know why. I'll read up on that later. So we've done all these things. I should be checking them off just to make sure. Propeller exercise. So you're supposed to bring it once. It's got to be at least a 300 RPM drop twice, and that just cycles oil in and out of the hub. Especially on a cold morning, you want to make sure that you get warm oil moving into that hub. Back to full forward. Alternate air check. Airplane should keep running even with the alternate air. Fuel pump off. It should still keep running. Fuel pressure check. Even with the... let's see here. There it is. Fuel pressure. Even with the fuel pump off, it's green. And then back to idle. It shouldn't quit even at idle. May run a little rough. She vibrates a little bit, but she's not too bad. Alright. Gotta get used to the throttle positions on this one. 1400. Done. Run up is complete. Next will be our before takeoff checklist. So let's just make sure we got all of our avionics on here. Certainly some very beaten up looking radios on this airplane. COM 1, COM 2. Get our transponder, and we'll go ahead and set 1200 for VFR. We'll set 22.8 for Unicom here. And make sure that we are transmitting on COM 1, so we don't even need that. It does seem to recognize in my vPilot the COM 1 is on. We could turn on the rest of the radios if we wanted to. I'm not really going to worry too much about them. Use the GPS a little bit. If I can figure out how to make it work, I might have to wait till we're airborne to figure out how to make that work, and I'm okay with that. Alright, battery master switch is on, alternator switch is on, flight instruments, everything appears to be checked. Heading to... what does that look like? About 205. It's pretty close on the HSI, great. Fuel selector. We're going to leave it on the right tank now. Fuel pump is going back on for takeoff. Engine checks are complete, and the alternate air is closed. Mixture is set to full rich. Propeller set to full fine. Flaps. We'll do 1 notch of flaps for takeoff. Trim is... can't really see the trim setting from here. Let's see if I can find a way to look at the trim setting. Might need to do it from the co-pilot seat. There it is. Trim is set. And controls again. Controls are free, and the door is clear, latched. That's it. We're good to go. And a quick weather check in Ottawa. Winds 160 at 6. Pretty light, so... we'll go ahead and, where's my airport diagrams here? Really quickly see what we got here in CART, because I haven't actually flown here for a while. I did 1 flight to land here, and that was a while ago. 10 and 28, so well, we'll probably depart 10. Checklists are nice to have right here. I kind of like them only because I'm a little bit unfamiliar with this airplane, but I'm sure we're going to figure it out pretty quickly here. Now, do we have lights? We should have the rotating beacon should be on, and the landing light will get as we get onto the runway. Alright, so far so good. Haven't managed to kill myself yet. As we cross runway 04, which is no longer... Oh, no, it's a turf runway. We're not going to use the turf runway, we're going to use 10. So we're going to go ahead and cross threshold of 04 here. It looks paved in this version for some reason, but it's indicated as a turf, or maybe it's a gravel runway. On my diagram. We'll get this airborne, and then while we're cruising, we'll have a look around and we'll see what some of the... we'll turn on some of the other radios, get some functionality. There is apparently an autopilot in this as well. May play with that a little bit if we get a chance. But it's a pretty docile airplane anyway, so it shouldn't be too tough to hand fly this a fair bit. Just going to do a quick flight. It's 4,500 feet. We're just going to go up so we can see the scenery. We're not going to get to the clouds too much here. Alright, so takeoff check. So go ahead and line up on the runway so we can turn on the strobe. We're going to turn on the landing light for takeoff as well. And I believe that's pitot heat. We should probably have that on as well because it is winter out there, as you can see. And it is cold. Alright, I don't see anybody coming. Alright, and a quick read through of the line of the takeoff checklist. So we line up on the runway, make sure the flaps and trims are set, throttle full power, rotate at 65, initial climb at 75. Once we're airborne, apply the brakes and retract the gear, and then above 300 feet, retract the flaps. So we'll go ahead and close this up so we got a full view here, lined up on the runway. Quick little gratuitous ready to go runway shot. There's me, aren't I handsome? Alright. There we go, I figured out how to get nav lights on. Alright, so we're lined up on the runway, and we got everything on. 65 knots, we rotate 75 knots for the initial climb out. Alright, full power. She's got a lot of power. Here comes 65 knots. Airborne, just like that. 75 knots. Tap the brakes and retract the gear. She is a single engine propeller though. She needs a lot of right rudder, and I do not have rudder pedals in this airplane. A little trim though to help it out. Maybe Santa will be kind to me and bring me some rudder pedals. Alright. Definitely through 300 feet there. Let's go flap 0. And away we go. Cold out there. Just looking at the meter right now, and it's minus 15. Woo. It is chilly out there. Alright, and let's go ahead and go to about 80 knots here for a bit of a cruise climb. Well clear of the circuit. Let's go ahead and start our right turn out. Pick up a heading of about 210, should take us more or less to Kingston, and we'll just have to follow the chart and sky vector here. Not sure why I got a little hesitation there, maybe my Ottawa scenery that I have loading. Alright, and we're airborne. We gotta reduce the power a little bit here. 2,500, 25 inches of manifold pressure, 2,500 RPM. Let me take this away for a second. I can see that a little better. Yeah, it's 2,500 RPM. And, whoop, turning way too far here. I'm a child of the magenta line now. The idea of flying just VFR, just a heading of 210. Do my best to keep that heading without flying into this cloud above us here. I thought it was supposed to be a nice VFR day here. And there's a big cloud right above us. Alright, Let's see if we can get established on course on a heading of 210. And keep this climb going. Might have to level off to keep out of that cloud. Quick check of sky vector. Yeah, 210 heading should take us approximately to Kingston, and we're going to do some 214 actually is the track for Kingston here. Maybe I'll see if I can load up my GPS to help me out a little later on here. Nope, nope. Going into the clouds, not good. Alright, looks like we have to level off at 3,500 briefly. Gotta get used to the view outside the window in this airplane as well. Every airplane's a little bit different. How much of the nose you can see, and especially with chase plane, depending on how you sit, if you sit high or low. Can definitely cause a different view depending on how you sit. So something like that. Just trim it a little bit, the nose low. Yeah, drop it a little bit. Very fine trim though. It's taken me a lot of trim inputs to get the trim in there, but that's good. You want a nice fine trim. That makes it much easier to trim it out if you can trim it in such tiny little increments. So I'm gonna have to read up on this. It'll take a little bit to figure out how the autopilot works. I know the autopilot's down here. I feel like I can't let go of the controls really right now to to look at it. Some nice things though they do include here too with the JustFlight airplane here is they got some very nice charts, some performance charts here. So your cruise charts, takeoff. These look like they're directly from the actual aircraft manual here. So those are, if you want to make some realistic flight plans, fly the airplane as realistically as possible, those are definitely going to be able to help you out. All right. Looks like we're clear of the cloud there. Let's get the power back in there again. And let's go ahead and try and climb up to that cruise altitude we set today for 4,500. And the manual for the JustFlight manual is it's quite detailed. I like it. It's good. If you have not flown the airplane before, it'll definitely walk you through every step you need to take to get there, which is great. And there we go. We do have rudder trim in this aircraft. I didn't actually know we had rudder trim in this aircraft. I'll have to look for that later. I think I think this is it right here, is the rudder trim. Wow, I have let this airplane drift a long way here. I am not. I'm spending way too much time looking around the airplane and not enough time flying it. Alright, we're going to try and hold that 214 heading a little better here. And as soon as we get up to 4,500 and get this thing leveled off, we'll try and see if we can spot where we are on the chart here. The wonderful thing about flying up north of Canada is there's not much out there except for a lot of lakes. Although not that Eastern Ontario is really that far north, but even here on the Carp to Kingston leg, gonna be a lot of time spent just sort of quietly cruising along over a bunch of trees and farmland without a whole lot of cities or even major roads along the way to follow. So the one nice thing is if we do keep the correct heading, eventually we're going to hit Lake Ontario. So we definitely can't miss Kingston. If we hit Lake Ontario, we've gone too far. We just either have to turn left or right up the shoreline. This airplane definitely needs a little bit of trim, but there we go. All right, let's see here. I had selected a 65% power cruise, so let's see if the chart here will give me best power cruise. I shouldn't cover up my whole screen here, or I'll just fall out of the sky, but 2,500 RPM, gear up, flaps up, and 65%, but it doesn't tell me. I really should figure out how to engage this autopilot over here. Power settings. Oh, here we are. So for 65% power at, we'll say about 4,000 to 5,000 feet, at 2,500 RPM, we're looking for about 22.5 inches of manifold pressure. So we're a little bit high on the manifold pressure there. We'll just bring it back about there. Something like that. We'll, oh, and we're a little bit high. Not doing a very good job of flying here. Okay, let's see if we can have a look out the window here and figure out where we are. Definitely leaving Ottawa behind. There's some roads there. There's not a whole lot on this route, though. That's the thing. That's just mostly trees. Again, if I bring the sky vector view back over, once I get this thing leveled out a little bit here. Looking at sky vector on my second screen here, and there really is not a whole lot after we leave Carp. Should fly right past a little village called Carlton Place, and a couple of lakes. Mississippi Lake, which is fairly round. I don't see too many lakes out here. Everything's very white now. It's that time of year. Where we're just flying over a lot of... There's some farmland disappearing behind us, but then in front of us is mostly just forest land. So, and again, I've let the heading drift very much, so I need to trim that rudder. Keep us on heading here. Sloppy heading control, sloppy altitude control. I would fail my flight test at this point. But it's a fun airplane to fly. This is a lot of fun. It's a little bit of an interesting challenge. Not super slow. I mean, we're doing a good 125 knots indicated right now. I can crunch the numbers as to what that works out to in true. This has actually got a built-in flight computer too. So at let's see here. Ground speed 113 knots. 111 knots. True airspeed 124, fuel flow 14 gallons per hour. We could probably lean it out a little bit here. We want to help get the fuel flow maximized. We should be able to lean it up to about 10 gallons. Watch the temperatures. Do I have an exhaust gas temperature gauge on this? We got fuel pressure. We don't actually have exhaust gas temperature on this, do we? But that's alright. Doing a better job of not letting it drift quite so much now. Alright, now there's a lake over there. And there's Alright, YouTube, so we're just going to stop the video right here for now and split it in two. So I hope you enjoyed this first half. I hope you learned a little bit of something. And if you like this airplane, check it out. It's on JustFlight's website. I am really enjoying it. It's even more fun than I thought it might be at first. The documentation is really good, and the checklists are working really well for me. So join me for part 2, where we'll see if we can make it all the way to Kingston without using that GPS, since I can't seem to turn it on anyways. So we'll see if we can navigate just VFR, follow along in the charts, and thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we'll see you all in the next video.